Hello, and welcome to this week's Marketing, Branding and Getting the Sales Show. And today we're talking about the fortune is in the follow-up. So before we dive into today's topics, let's just do some quick introductions. So let's go to Jess first. Over to you, Jess.
Good morning, everyone. So you can see the dog in the background every now and again this morning. But what I do is I stop businesses gambling with their marketing budgets and instead know exactly what marketing is going to work for your brand, and create the relevant strategies to help you get there, all whilst outsmarting and outselling your competition. So I have a 6-step loyalty process that I work on with my clients to get these results. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, drop me a message. I will also put a link in the comments to a short video explaining them 6 steps.
Fabulous. Thank you very much, Jessica. And over to you, Stephen.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Stephen Lerman from Chameleon BDS, Outsourced Business Development Service. So if you're looking to grow your business, but don't want to, or don't have the resource to make those outbound calls and set those appointments, then please do feel free to give me a call, drop me a line, send me an email, or wave frantically, and I will do my very best to get you in front of those clients to help you win more business.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stephen. And I'm Una Doyle. I'm a business strategist and coach. My company is called Creative Flow. And with my impact-driven growth model, I can help you to double your revenues at the very least. Let me know if you want to see a video that shows you how to do that. And really what I'm about is I'm helping to create business owners who have got businesses that they could sell tomorrow, but probably don't want to because them and team members are in creative flow. It's highly profitable. It's fun to run and making a bigger difference on the world. Okay, so a good morning, Chris. Welcome. And yes, and hello to Helen, who said she's going to be watching the replay but can't make it today. It's one of her favorite topics. So always good to hear from you, Helen, as well. Okay, so Stephen, you're in the spotlight this week. Talking about the follow-up. I think it's something that applies to every business owner, though. So tell me, what do you think are some mistakes that people make in terms of following up?
Well, let's start at the very beginning. So there are 4 stages of the sales process. Okay, so you've got prospecting, presenting, closing, and follow-up. And most salespeople are good or even great at 1, 2, or even 3 stages of this process, but generally not all 4. And follow-up is the key to sales growth and retention. But unfortunately, 90% of the time, follow-up is the weakest link in the sales process. So I've got some stats for you. Okay.
So we love the stats.
Okay, these are from the National Sales Executive Association. And according to research, only 2% of people buy during the first contact. Therefore, without harnessing the power of a simple email or phone call, you're potentially missing out on 98% of your sales. Okay. But if you take that one step further, 3% of people buy during the second contact, 5% on the third, 10% on the fourth. But the lion's share of the sales, 80%, are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So it's that old 80-20 rule. Okay. Following on from that, there's a few more stats. 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. That is massive. 48%. Okay. 25% make only a second contact. 12% make only a third. And just 15% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. Now, myself, I generally make 6 to 7 contacts before I decide whether I'm going to pursue it or leave it till later on. And there's some reasons why people don't follow up. Okay. It's not on the top of anybody's to-do list. And the reason for that is some might feel that they're bugging their prospect. Okay. Some might think that if they're interested, they would call back. Well, that's not always the case. As far as we're concerned, we are the most important person in that prospect's life at that very moment in time. But that's not always the case. There's so much stuff going on in people's heads that they just might not have the headspace for it. They might have other things going on. They might be ill. You just don't know. So I always say, follow up and keep following up, but don't be too pushy. Okay. So send an email or make a phone call every 2 to 3 days. So just you're keeping in the forefront of your prospective client's mind, but you're not being too pushy. And some people might not want to follow up because they think they might have done something wrong during the last phone call or the meeting. So they tend to shirk away from making that follow up.
I think that the whole psychology behind people not following up is really interesting. And you know, I think sometimes people, like, they get up the courage to do some, I mean, and maybe they're not even getting up the courage to actually go for, to kind of reach out and contact people. Maybe they're dealing with inbound inquiries, and so they're not in the habit of kind of having to reach out and to follow up. I mean, I think there's some strategies, and I'll talk about more about these later, that people can implement to make follow up actually superfluous most of the time, which I think can really help. Like, particularly when you're talking about you've already had some kind of sales, presentation, discussion, you've made an offer or done a proposal, whatever kind of your sales process is. And I think there's some things you can do to kind of negate that. But if people aren't in the habit of having to kind of do anything outbound, then, as you say, they might have that kind of, oh, I don't want to disturb people. But what's that really about? If we scratch beneath the surface, what that's really about is, I don't want to get rejected. What are they going to think of me? It's all about what the other person's going to think of them and what they think of themselves, isn't it, when it comes down to it?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm a firm believer, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Oh,
Okay.
totally.
So that fear of rejection, it's totally psychosomatic. And the more times you talk to people on the telephone, the more rejections you get, the more likelihood is that you're going to get a positive response that very next time. And it's all, I always say, it's not a no for never, it's a no for now, because you just never know when that person is going to want to use your services. So by keeping in touch and just making it, a general phone call. Hi, how are you? How's everything going? You know what? I saw this article and I thought of you. So, I'm just sending it to you. Not even trying to close on a pitch. It's just about building rapport. That's what it's all about, more than
This is what
anything
people
else.
don't want to do, is it? They don't want to do, hey, you ready to buy yet?
Yeah, it's
like, that's
not
the worst call to make. So you need to make sure you're not, you've structured things so you're not doing
totally.
that. Right?
Yeah, you can't go in heavy-handed like that. People do want to buy, and I say this all the time, they just don't want to be sold to. It's all about building relationships, and it gets to the point where they're so comfortable with you on the telephone because you've spoken to them or you've emailed them and they responded 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. It's more familiar, so there's a rapport going. So it's a lot easier for them to say, yeah, you know what, I need your help. Or you talked about something, you sent me an email, and I'm now ready to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back to the rejection thing, I was reminded of, I used to listen, in my acting days, I used to listen to this podcast called Inside Acting. And one of their, I can't remember who it was, unfortunately, but one of their guests, and because obviously as an actor you're facing rejection constantly because you're just going to audition after audition, and the vast majority of the time you get a no. And so they were saying, well, don't think of it as being rejected. You didn't have it before you went into the audition. If you don't have it when you leave the audition, nothing's changed. And it's exactly the same with any sales opportunity. You haven't got the sale right now. If you follow up and you get a no, well, you still don't have the sale. Nothing's changed. So, that's one kind of shift in how you frame these kinds of conversations to kind of try and get away from that feeling of being rejected.
Of course, it's all about putting a positive spin on everything. And what we have to realize is that there are 1,000,001 reasons why people haven't bought from you that first time. They might be shopping around, they might be procrastinating, they may have just forgotten, or they may have forgotten. They may have lost your email or your business card, so they can't call you back. So they're hoping and praying that you're going to follow up. So there's 1,000,001 reasons why, but it's all about mindset, isn't it? Really, it's like you said, if you've not had it in the first place, you've not lost anything. So what have you got? What have you got to lose? Nothing.
For sure. What's your view, Jess? What do you think about kind of the number, like the sheer volume of people who are not following up? Like that's huge. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, it does actually. It does really surprise me. But the touch points, in a sense of it taking, how many times was it? 5 to 12 contacts before.
12.
8 to 12 contacts before kind of making that decision. That doesn't surprise me as well. And when you were talking about different touch points, it's not always picking up the phone. Again, that's, yeah, completely agree. But imagine as well all the opportunities we're missing out on by not following up, but then all the effort that we're putting in to put new leads into that funnel and new leads into that kind of that funnel. So if we're following up, we're probably going to face less rejection because we're putting less people in and we're putting more quality in than quantity. So yeah, we're talking about that fear of rejection. It's kind of, we're almost fueling that by not following up. Because we're just gonna have to keep pulling more and more people in, and how draining is that to keep trying to find more people, especially when you're on your own.
Absolutely, I agree. If we're investing time in following up and building those relationships, if you look at it from the prospect's point of view, human nature shows us that people respect a business or industry that's organized to follow, because it shows that we care, and it's not just about that one quick phone call. So if somebody says no the first time, they put the phone and they move on to the next one, and they never hear from them ever again. If we're showing an active interest in the prospect that we're calling, then they're more likely going to remember us and then want to reciprocate by engaging with us and building that rapport. The bottom line is when salespeople or anybody follow up, they're building relationships and they're going to win customers and sales. That's just it. It's that simple. There's no rocket science. It's just about investing time and not quitting. So don't quit. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Seriously, it really is that simple.
I suppose
I
it's
always
not. I suppose I was just going to say. I suppose it's what was I going to say now? Yeah, you might have to go. I forgot.
Okay.
It went instant.
See, this is live, folks, not pre-recorded and edited. Yeah, what I was going to say is that I think when it comes to people following up, there's my mind's gone blank. Jess, it's catching. What had you just said, Stephen?
Talk about it's human nature. People respect a business.
I remember now. I was going to say, I always advise my clients that when they're doing, their follow-up, basically to keep going until they get a yes or a no, or it might be a not now. Because the thing is, as you said, Stephen, you do not know what is going on in people's businesses and people's lives. And as you say, it's probably down the priority list for them. Now, if you've done a really good job in your marketing and, your sales presentation, then it will be much higher up the priority list. So that's definitely something you can do to help in this whole scenario, because, the more that they feel, yes, this is a priority, I really can see why I need to do this and I should do it now, the more you can get people saying yes initially, then that's actually going to help you as well, because they'll just have less follow-up to do. So I think that makes a big difference as well. So Stephen, what's have you remembered yet, Jess? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have. I even wrote it down as well quickly whilst it was in my brain. Going back to where you were saying building relationships and things like that, I think not putting too much pressure on that follow-up and that call and just seeing it as a conversation. I know we talk about this all the time, and Una talks about this all the time, and just having conversations with people and getting in front of people. And if we take the pressure off the call to be like, right, okay, I need a yes or a no now, or, I need, they said they'd buy, but they're not. I don't know why, rather than putting all that pressure on that follow-up, just see it as, I'm having a conversation. I might get some golden nuggets from it to even use on some marketing or use somewhere else, and just see it as that building relationships and having them conversations. So yeah, it was that came to mind when you were speaking.
Right. And actually the other thing is, one of the things I've learned from one of my mentors is, the purpose of the sales process is to get the client to make a decision. It's not necessary to make them to get them to say yes. You know, what if it's not a good fit for them, or it's not the right time, or you haven't got the right offer for them yet, or you know, there can be a whole host, or maybe they're just not a good fit for you. You know, like remember, think about that as well. So if the focus is to get them to make a decision, to make sure that they have all the information that they need, and you have all the information you need as part of that process, then that I think that takes the pressure off, because it's about making a decision, not you getting a yes. In which case, you know, which then makes the no feeling like you failed. Whereas if the purpose is to get them to make a decision so they can get it out of their head, they can either proceed or they can decide it's not for them. And then everybody, it's a win-win for everybody, regardless of whether it's a yes or a no. So that's another kind of way of thinking about things as well. So, Stephen, what are some strategies that people can use when they're following up then to have better?
Right. Are you ready? Because these are...
Oh, yes.
Right. Again, simple. There's no point in overcomplicating things. In using an analogy, keep it simple, stupid. So here are some easy follow-up tips or strategies. Number one, pick up the phone. Okay. If you've got the phone number of the person, there's nothing wrong with a good old-fashioned phone call. I think we seem to forget about the phone and tend to send texts or emails or DMs or anything like that. But pick up the phone. There's nothing better than having a conversation with somebody on the telephone if you can't do face-to-face and can't drop by. I mean, people don't just drop by anymore. It's a bit further afield. But number one, pick up the phone. Now, if you're having a conversation with somebody on the telephone and they're not going to buy on the first call, which is highly unlikely, unless you just happen to be in the right place at the right time and the sun, moon, and stars are all in perfect alignment, and they say, "Oh my God, yes, I've been waiting for your call all my life," which very rarely happens, even for me. Then what you need to do is you want to get commitment for a follow-up call. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to establish a specific date and time for that call, and this will open up opportunities for future conversations in which you will try to sway the customer or get them to make a decision, like you said. Now, what I do, and I do recommend this, and although some people will say it's cheesy, but I do believe this will set you apart from everybody else, is after every time you have the first phone call, send a thank you email or even a card. Yeah, just to say, thank you for taking the time to speak to me today. This shows the client that you've taken the time an effort to do something a little bit different. Okay, I always send an email, and then if it gets to the point where I'm sending out a proposal, I always start it off by, "Dear such and such, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It was really great to know a little bit more about your organization, what you're looking for, and how I might be able to assist you." You know, and manners cost nothing, and that's all it is. It's all about manners. Okay, so next one, the day before. I mean, again, like I said, these are simple, but they're so effective. The day before you're doing your follow-up call, send an email to remind them that you've got an appointment, and send an agenda if you've got an agenda. So you know that exactly what you're going to talk about and what you're looking for in terms of outcomes from that follow-up call. And then also add value. So you've sent an email, you've sent everything that you want to say. At the bottom, you could do a little PS, okay, and say something along the lines of, "Looking forward to speaking with you on such and such a date. But in the meantime, I thought you might enjoy reading or looking at such and such." And why? Because you've taken the time to do something extra. This is all about setting you apart from everybody else, okay? Because everybody's looking for business. So why would they want to talk to you as opposed to me? Okay, but if you've gone the extra mile and you've given them something of value, yeah, then they might look at it a little bit differently. Punctuality is key. Never be late when you're making a follow-up phone call, because promptness and respect reflects well on you. Okay, and it shows that the person you're talking to is just as important as you are. Okay. And then it's all about building rapport and being persistent, but not pushy. Okay, just by having conversations, you not only understand the needs of your customer, but when they are more likely to want to engage and make a purchase. Okay, and by aligning your offers with their needs, you help create value for your customers and build long-lasting relationships. And that's what it's all about.
I think they're great. I think they're great tips, and I think sometimes people confuse being persistent with being pushy, but they're two different things.
Yeah. When I say be persistent, obviously we're calling for a specific reason, okay? And like you said, you want to get them to come to a decision, not necessarily to make a purchase, but to either say yes or no. So what I would suggest is you follow up every 2 to 3 days. You know, make a phone call, leave a voicemail, and then if that doesn't work the next time, send them an email saying, "Hi, Una, it's Stephen. I tried to catch you the other day. Unfortunately, you weren't available. Just wanted to follow up and see, etc., etc." You know, so it's spacing it out so that you don't want to appear needy. There's nothing worse than appearing needy or desperate, because desperation shows. You know, exactly, and then people will swerve to avoid you. Yeah. So
yeah. Well, my favorite one is get the commitment for a follow-up call. That's the thing I always advise clients to do. Don't leave without there being some specific follow-up action. And I would also suggest, don't just say agree a time and date, send them a calendar invite. You know, even if it's just for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, it just puts it into their calendar. And, you know, if it's in their calendar, it's way more likely to happen than I would. If I agreed for somebody to call me back on, you know, even Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, if it's not in my calendar, I've forgotten. You know, so I wouldn't expect anyone else to remember when we all have so much going on, right?
Absolutely. And then it goes one step further. So if you're sending an email and in there it's got click on here's my calendar, I put a link to my calendar to book a follow-up appointment. I never ever do that. Because as soon as you put the phone down, something else has happened. There's a major catastrophe, or oh look, there's an aeroplane, and you've lost the momentum. So I always
book it in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, without question, you do it because they just won't do it. Not because they don't want to, because they've forgotten about it, and the moment's gone. You definitely have to strike while the iron's hot. While you're on the phone with them, book it in, and I even wait until I hear it ping on the other side to say, "Oh, you've received it. Right, now I'm going."
Oh yeah, that's a really good one. Is to just kind of go, "Oh, can you just check your email, make sure it's come through okay?" You know, because they do sometimes go into spam, so it's a good thing to do anyway. But yeah, then you've got that confirmation, haven't you? Yeah. Because the thing is, it's about commitment. You know, if someone isn't prepared to commit to a time and date to have a follow-up conversation, now you might be in the early stages and you haven't yet got to the point where you're making an offer, right? I mean, once you've made an offer, that I think there's things that you need to be doing in that presentation or consultation, whatever it is, to make it so that you're either getting that answer or a provisional answer. And then, you know, the follow-up is just kind of more of a matter of course, but you're still getting that commitment to that follow-up. And so if somebody is kind of making all the right noises, but then they won't commit once you've done your presentation and made an offer, and they don't commit to a follow-up, then that's a signal that they're not interested, but they just don't want to say so. Yeah. So I think that, you know, then you've got to be in that conversation kind of going, oh, well, you know, you want to be delving further. It's like, oh, is there something, you know, something going through your mind? Or even just sometimes saying, look, if you're not interested, that's okay. I'm not going to take it personally. Because people often don't want to say no, and they think they're being nice by fobbing you off, but actually they're not, because they're just not letting you know where you stand. And how can you address their concerns if you don't know where they stand? And so I think it's good from that point of view as well, to actually be able to either get a commitment or have a conversation about why that commitment isn't there, to have that follow-up call. Because I mean, I would just say to people, well, well, let's put something in the calendar. They kind of say, oh no, it's fine, just call me whenever. I'll just say to them, look, if it's not my calendar, I won't do it, and if it's not in your calendar, you won't do it. So if you don't want to do it, if you don't want to have a follow-up call, if the answer is no, that's no problem. That's perfectly okay. So I think just giving them permission sometimes to say no, or to bring up other concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I practice is when I'm talking to people on the telephone is I always say, listen, in terms of following up, look, there's still no obligation, and there's no commitment. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. I want to make sure this is right for you. So if you take the what's the word I'm looking for? My mind's gone blank. I can't think what I want to say. It's if you take the not the responsibility, if you make it so that there's no, they don't have to.
No obligation.
Thank you. Obligation. Thank you. Couldn't think of the word. If you take the obligation away, it makes it a lot easier. It's much more of a relaxed conversation. And because, like I said at the very beginning, it's all about building rapport. You want them to get
away the pressure, isn't it?
Yes, the pressure and the obligation. Absolutely. Yeah. Because we want to build relationships. I don't want to be there just for that first sale. I want to build a long-lasting relationship. So number one, it's right for them. Number two, it's a great job that I've done. And number three, they're going to recommend me because it was right. Or if I can't help them, I'll be able to refer them on to somebody that possibly can help. And you're not going to get that from the one conversation and then without following up. So there's many reasons why we should follow up with people, not just about getting the sale, but it's about, if you can't help them, but somebody that can, great. You've done them a favor, and then they're going to remember you for that.
Exactly. And also I go back to Jess's point about really getting to know your customers, because if prospective clients are saying no, and like 3 out of 5 of them are saying no for the same reason, then you need to go back to the drawing board. Like, either they're not a good fit and you consciously choose not to serve those clients. That's great. That's a great thing to do. Or if you might be learning something that you hadn't previously thought of. Maybe there's something missing in your offer, in your solution, that means that's why it's a no. So I think that's really key as well. If you just focus on seeking the truth in a situation. And I think if you do that, then that takes away pressure. It means you won't be pushy. If you genuinely want to help and you genuinely want to get to the truth in a situation.
Absolutely.
Think back as well. Think back the truth for being that emotion. So when you are finding out the reason why, if someone says, well, I've just not got the time to do it, or I've not got the time to do this, or I've not got the money to do this, they're very logical reasons. There's always an emotional reason backing that up. So we need to find out what the emotional part is. So that's why it's really good to have these conversations with someone as well, rather than just an email, because you can really dig deeper and be like, okay, well, why, what else is going on, really understanding the challenges. So yeah, that's exactly what was going around in my head, really understanding whether it's a no or a yes. Also, all these points that you're making, Stephen, can all be automated. Well, most of them can be automated at some point, can't they? So, your follow-up email, your pre-email, your thank you email, all these sort of things can be part of that process and can be automated. So it doesn't mean you have to do more all the time. It just means having that process in place.
I mean, at the very least, if you don't have an email automation system, Gmail templates. There's usually very simple things you can do to make it easy to follow up with people. And because if you had to write an email from scratch every time, then that's probably at least 5 or 10 minutes, isn't it? Whereas if you have a template and then you just personalize one bit of it, then that's only going to take you a minute to do. So yeah, I think the other thing as well is ideally having some kind of a CRM, okay, some kind of a sales database that that will flag up, ideally one that allows you to kind of create opportunities, a pipeline that you can look at a glance. Who are all the people that are in my pipeline? What stage of the buying process are they at? And so that, you know, you can see, and it's a brilliant tool to have as well, because then you can go, wait a minute, my pipeline's looking a bit thin, I need to up my prospecting. Or wait a minute, these people are staying here too long, like what's going on, I need to do some follow-up activity with them. Or you know, you can even have, like, I have a kind of pipeline board for longer term nurture, where people have said, I really like this idea, but it's the wrong time, I can't afford it, you know, whatever it might be. And just kind of check in with them every now and again. And so, you know, it's like, why hold things in our heads when we can have a system do it for us? And then that leaves us free to be able to think and focus, rather than all this stuff rattling around in our brains. And then we can have tasks that pop up that go, okay, you need to follow up with this person now, you need to follow up with that person now. And it just makes it easy.
Absolutely, I agree. And for all my clients, I have access to all their CRMs, and you know, we have this dashboard set up so that I can see at any point in time where my prospects are in the sales cycle. So I know, because you know, some of them it's that multi-touch point process. It's call, email, and I know. So stage 1 this week, stage 2, stage 3, and then I move them along the process, so I know where I'm up to. You know, and not only is it great for me, it's also great for the client, because they want to know, well, you know, what have you done? Where are we up to? How have they responded? Are we wasting our time? Do we put them onto a long-term nurture drip campaign, or the do not call list? You know, so absolutely, because that's the only way we're going to truly get a handle on how we're following up and where we're up to in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything people need, apart from being pushy and putting pressure on people, anything else that people need to, any mistakes people make in the follow-up process that people need to be aware of and avoid?
Yes. Try to stay away from the opening line when you send the email. I'm just following up to see if.
Yeah.
You know, it's everybody does that. You know, come back with, you know, something that separates you. Like, Una, I saw this and I thought of you. You know, or I was reading this article. You know, something like that. You know, because number one, it separates you from everybody else. Number two, it shows that you're really truly taking the time to get to know and build that relationship, because you've gone out of your way. It's all about putting that little bit of extra effort in. That's all it is.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Any final questions or thoughts, Jess?
I just love the adding value. I just love that so much, because not only is it beneficial for the, you know, the client, the consumer, the customer, whoever it is, the prospect, it's also putting you in such a good light, isn't it? Like, whether you've got a product or a service, if you're offering something of value, then people are getting excited about what you do. Your credibility is building up, you know, it's building that energy. So that's my favorite point, just adding value. And if ever in doubt, think, okay, how else can I add value? Yeah, love it. Great, Stephen.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Great. Thank you, Stephen. I think those have been some brilliant points. We want to know your thoughts. Comment below. Which is your favorite tip? How good are you at following up? Is this an area that, you know, you want to improve in, or perhaps outsource? You know, whatever's going to work best for you. So let us know below. And next week, we're going to be talking about expanding our comfort zones. So tune in same time next week, and bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.